Welcome to Narratives Leadership Story Talks, where great leaders go beyond the bottom line to create lasting impact. Join hosts Jerome and Julienne Ryan as they uncover the stories behind real-world challenges, offering practical insights to help you lead with empathy, authenticity, and purpose. Each episode dives into how leaders use storytelling to build trust, foster connection, and inspire action. Whether you're navigating workplace dynamics, driving change, or building high-performing teams.
So when AI is mimicking as opposed to truly reflecting a culture, then things can become dulled. They can become where we don't recognize it anymore. You know, there's I think people feel like, you've gotten all of this data from different communities, but now you're selling it back to us in a way that we don't understand and don't trust and doesn't truly reflect us. And so it's been flattened out. And I think that's one of the real risks, as opposed to looking at how you could build AI that restores lost traditions and culture, that preserves language, that really amplifies the nuances that exist.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. That was James Francis talking to us about his new venture, Artificial Integrity, and really looking at, how do we bring in all these voices, and how do we include people that weren't necessarily thought about in designing AI. And that's really the challenge that he's posing right now and talked about in the quote you just heard. I had a thought right off the bat, which to me, this really reminds me of our work in storytelling. And there were lots of parallels. If you go back and listen to the whole episode, we talked a lot about this, actually. But to me, the main point I wanted to make here is that, when we talk about a story, we have to be careful that story becomes representative of everything and everyone. And so we always guard people against, make sure that you're not just using one story over and over. And one of the ways that we kind of make people feel empowered to even tell a story is that they have many, many stories to tell about themselves and about any given situation. There's lots of angles, lots of perspectives. And the more you can explore those different angles, different perspectives, and try to make them as stories, craft them as stories, people will have a much more dimensionalized view of yourself. And they'll be able to say, oh, that's not just John in accounting, but that's John who's got 3, 4, 5 other things going on, and listen, and I just heard his story again, and now I'm hearing something different. And the reason that's important is that you start to create understanding and trust the more stories you have about yourself that you can tell other people. And the more, because people are going to see you as more dimensional, they're going to see you as a lot of different facets, meaning that there's a much more of a chance that they'll see themselves in your story, and they'll be encouraged to tell their own stories. And when you're in a winning position is when people start to tell you those stories, and now you're learning something about them, and you're getting a new perspective, you're getting a new angle, and that adds to all the ideas that feed your business, that feed innovation. So I think this cycle is really important, and I was fascinated to hear that that's what James is working on in the design of AI, designing an AI that actually takes into consideration all the cultural backgrounds of people and the things that make them tick in terms of language, music, culture, et cetera, et cetera. And that's exciting to me that there are people out there that are designing it that way instead of one monolithic thing that we just ask questions to and we keep getting the same responses.
Well, yes, and we can sometimes lapse into, like with AI, it can be this omnipresent thing, and we assume that our voices are represented. And it was when another colleague of ours, Melissa Drew, um, is heavily involved in AI. She ran a conference, and one of the things I learned in collaborating with her to do a presentation was that there was a whole certain cohort of people creating the language, and they come from one part of our environment, and it was excluding diversity and multi levels of experience. So James is on to something very, very important. And here's the thing: we need to also be tourists and curious and visit different environments and test the voice and see how we can uh, learn more, inform ourselves, and be a little smarter when we start to play with these different vibes. So I'm looking forward to learning more about the work and how it shows up and how we can use it in that experiences, because we can be all very narrow and with our scripts and our assumptions, etc. So this really brings up to another point that we've talked about. AI, when we're in communications, is let's use it to better how we're approaching information and discovery, but not to let the human muscle get lazy and not practice it, because we can't chat GPT all of our interactions. So practicing the dialogue and that relatability that we do in our workshops and finding those simple moments of connection to say, oh, we have more than we realize in common, or here's a lessons learned about our shared experiences. Now, you've traveled all over the world to do this work. I went all over the place lately, from New England to upstate New York. And it's always stunning to see the more we think we don't have anything in common, people that we do. But it's those sit down moments, sharing some simple things with a prompt and a dialogue that really is going to help you build trust. So, yes, get really engaged in your tech and what it's doing, but also get down to the human factor too. You're going to need those muscles even more so now to help with your communications.
Wonderful message. Yeah, absolutely. I think our message is get out there, be open,
Talk
be
to somebody.
curious, have conversations. Absolutely. I mean, this is a whole other thing, but there are so many surveys and studies that show that, the depression and loneliness
Mm,
and all of
mm.
that, it's really about, well, a lot of it is about technology kind of keeping us in our corners and making us feel connected, but we're actually not really connected. And so yes, AI is a wonderful tool. Use it, but don't overuse it. And yeah, be open, be curious about different points of view, different perspectives, and have conversations with people that are seemingly not like you. I think that's how we learn. Absolutely. And I think you and I are very privileged to be doing this kind of work where we get to
Yes.
hear people's stories from all over the place. And even if they're our next door neighbor and they happen to be in one of our training programs or whatever, and they look exactly like us, we live on the same street, etc. You hear their story and you discover something completely new about them. And now you have a new
Absolutely.
perspective. So I think
Yes.
that's a wonderful gift. And I really encourage everyone who's listening to explore that gift for yourself. You can go to our website, narrative.com, NARATIV.com. We have a variety of different training programs, whether it's one-on-one or in group,
Hmm.
that are live in person, where you can get your team together. I'm going to a retreat next week and facilitating that. You've been facilitating all over the place. That's what we do, people. So if you want to have conversations with us about how you can have better conversations with other people, especially with your teams, go to narrative.com and find that out and get in touch with us. We're always ready to listen to you. And as always, thanks for listening. And thank you, Jules, for being my
Thank
wonderful
you so
co-host.
much. Yes. Yes. Let's keep it going.
Yeah,
Cheers.
absolutely. See you next time, everybody. Bye.
For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method and how it can help your business, go to narrative.com.